Good morning, everybody. I got my coffee, I got my vape. Let's talk a little. Well, today I wanted to talk about the dichotomy of difficulty. I know a lot of you are just like me. You want to be better. You want to be stronger, smarter, more successful. But you definitely don't want the challenge, the change, adversity, and all around things being harder than they should. Unfortunately, you can't have one without the other. So let's talk about that. But first, let's take a big old sip and get things started. So I'm going to start off with what I pray about. When I pray for myself, I pray for wisdom, understanding, discernment, and for me to be successful at whatever I'm doing at that moment. But at the same time, I want everything to go perfectly smooth. I want no struggle, no conflict. I don't want to have to put out any extra effort, and I want to be great at everything right away. I never want to have to go backwards. That's a big one for me. I want to just keep progressing, and not turn back at all. So what I've done in the past is I've skipped steps, which causes me a lot of problems later down the road. I procrastinate. I'm sure none of you ever do that. And I kick and scream when things don't go smoothly. I've always wanted to achieve great things in my life and in the world. But I didn't want to take the time to learn new skills and practice and slow down to speed up. I always tried to do with whatever I had around me instead of getting the proper tools. And basically, I didn't want to change in any way. I wanted everything to stay the same, except I wanted to have this other thing. And to this day, I still complain. Why does everything have to be a struggle? Yet I want to be excellent at everything I do. I beat myself up and call myself names because I don't do something perfectly the first time. I get frustrated and I just want to quit. I'm screaming in my head, I'm just not good at this. I can't do it. Well, the reality is we can't know anything we've never known, and we can't do anything that we've never done. Pretty depressing, huh? Well, here's the flip side. We can learn or do anything if we have the passion to want to do it, the desire to change, the strength to put out the consistent effort it takes. You notice I said consistent effort. The fortitude to do whatever needs to be done, the patience to take the time needed, the humility to ask for help. Wow, that was a big one for me. And the will to finish what we start. Also, it really helps to have faith in a higher power, and it definitely helps to have the stubbornness of a mule. This may surprise a lot of people. But I used to be a quitter, especially when I was young. If things weren't going easy, I didn't want to do it. I believed if there was any difficulty, I was going in the wrong direction. If I didn't get recognition when I finished something, I'd never do it again. I've always been a rock star at heart. I wanted that applause. If you give me criticism, I'd stop. And not only would I stop, but I would pout for a long time. There was always people around offering help, especially my parents. But if somebody offered me help, I would always say no, because I wanted to do it my way, and I wanted to take all the credit. Here's a big thing that caused me a lot of problems for a long time. If I wasn't winning, I'd just take my ball and go home. I remember my sisters never wanted to play board games with me, especially Monopoly, because if I wasn't winning, I would just get frustrated and throw a fit and just turn the board over and throw all the pieces on the floor, and then I'd just go to my room and sulk. So what changed? Well, quite a few things, but I think the biggest thing that had the biggest influence on changing that is I started working out. In doing that, I realized that everything is going to be hard at the beginning. The amount of difficulty may vary, but it is always going to be difficult. But I also learned that's going to change. With working out, you have to gain muscle memory. You have to gain strength. All of your muscles and supporting muscles have to learn to work together, and they have to get to a certain amount of strength so that they can work together. You have to learn new skills, that's for sure. But on the backside, I learned how great it feels when things start to get easier, when I start to master things, and then I can start being creative at a certain point. I also learned how rewarding it is when I start to see the progress, and I look back and assess how far I've come. That is amazing. It also felt really rewarding to just finish things. I was never a finisher. I was a starter. I still fight with that now. And of course, we all know how great it feels to enjoy the fruits of our labor. With my working out, one of the best things was after I actually built my physique up. You may not know this if you don't know me, but I had hair down to my butt. I was a rock star for sure. And I would love it when I would walk into this restaurant that they had in Dallas. Now there's a chain of them all over the place, but this was the original one, and it was called Dick's Last Resort. Every time I would walk in there, somebody would get on the PA system and they say, "Fabio is in the house." It was probably a joke, but it really made me feel good. And I'll tell you what, there's nothing like when people that Myrna was playing with referred to me as Myrna's big boyfriend or big husband. As time passed, I got more wins at more things I was doing, and I got to experience the joy of learning new things. I didn't read much when I was a kid. I didn't like to learn. I didn't like to study. It was actually when I was an adult, I realized how amazing it is to be able to gain knowledge from someone else's experience. I think I'm an addict for it now because I am always learning. It didn't happen right away, but later on in life, I learned what it felt like to be a part of a team because I was never into sports. I was into playing guitar. And I also got the experience of how proud it made me to make someone who was helping me proud, and how satisfying it was to help somebody else and see them growing and them benefiting from it. I still get frustrated and want to quit, but when that happens, it's only a split second because I remind myself that the effort is always worth the gain, and I start focusing on how awesome it's going to be to experience all those things when I get to the point where I'm mastering whatever I'm doing. And what I'm doing right now is I'm going to take me another sip. How about you? So as you can tell, I had problems being successful at things, and I really resented other people that made it seem easy to do whatever they were going to do. But my biggest challenge was and is change. I did a coffee with Phil about this very subject last year called Cha-Cha-Cha Changes, and I'll put a link to it right up here. Change used to rock my world. I would avoid anything that made me feel the change. And the biggest thing was that I didn't want to let go of what I already had to grab onto something else. It's kind of like that story, and I don't know if it's true or not, about some Aborigines that would hunt for certain monkeys. And these monkeys would eat these special nuts. So what they would do is they would take these gourds, they would cut a hole in it just big enough for the monkey to put his hand in, but not to be able to pull his fist out, and they'd put all these nuts in it. So the monkeys would grab those nuts and they try to pull them out, and they wouldn't come out. So instead of releasing them and just picking a couple of them, they just kept trying harder and stubborner. They didn't want to let go of what they had. And even when the Aborigines would come up to them to club them in the head, they still wouldn't run because they didn't want to let go what they had in their hand. Well, that's kind of what was going on with me. At some point, I read somewhere or heard somewhere or somebody told me, I don't know, it was a long time ago. But what they shared was, you can't go somewhere new without leaving where you are. Yeah, that was a big one for me. That was a heavy one. I didn't fight that. That just made a whole lot of sense. So I had to learn how to let go. And that's a process in itself. You have to give yourself a little bit of time to mourn. That time will change depending on how attached you are to whatever you're letting go of. You still have to mourn, but after mourning, you have to stop and you have to focus ahead. You have to picture where you're going, how cool it'll be once you get there. You've got to smell it. You've got to taste it. You've got to look around the room and see things changed. You got to imagine what your life is going to be like at that point. And then the next one is very, very, very important. You have to go. You're not going to get anywhere if you don't start. Well, my brain just stopped actually. So I'm gonna take another sip and wake it back up again. So after all this years and years and years and years and trial and error, getting knocked down and getting back up, I realized that I can do anything if my resolve is strong enough. And you know what? So can you. You have to stop listening to that little voice inside your head that's screaming at you that you can't do it. What's the point? You're gonna fail every single time, so why try? And the worst part is the comparison to other situations, including your own, because that's the biggest thing that your brain goes to, is comparing this situation to other situations that it can find some similarity to. But you know what? This is a new situation. Even if you've tried this before and you failed or whatever the outcome was, this is a brand new day. This is a brand new situation. You're at a different point in your life and you have different skills and understanding. Also, stop believing anyone who doesn't believe in you. That crab in the bucket thing, people are always going to be telling you that you can't do it. They can't vision it like you can. They haven't spent that time. And don't even try to explain it to them. If they don't believe in you, you're not going to get them to see what you see and feel what you feel. So don't even try. There's no point. Find people who do. Find people that have already done it, and they definitely will believe in you. Be willing to change the things that are standing in your way. That's the big thing. You got to have the right questions. You have to analyze, what is stopping me from doing this step or making it difficult or just making me not want to do it, and change that thing. And then count to 3. 1, 2, 3, and just go. Just get up and do it. Stop thinking about it. Just go do it. You'll figure it out as you go along the way. But you're not going to know what you need to know 10 steps down the road until you get there. And even if you do, are you going to remember it? I never do. Okay, now it's time for another sip. So I hope sharing that with you helped. Let me know. Leave a comment. Let's start a discussion. Let me know how the dichotomy of difficulty works for you. I'm sure a lot of people don't struggle as much as I do with this. So if you figured out other ways, share them with us. Help us out. Give a dog a bone. If you're new to my channel, please look around, check out my other videos. There's been a lot of coffees with Phil lately. I hope you find something that you enjoy. And if you do, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing this with other people, because it really helps. And I really appreciate it. Also, hit that ringy-dingy thing so you're notified the next time I make a video. And as always, no matter what tune that life plays you, always find your groove. Thanks for hanging out with me again. I'll talk to you next week.